How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Originally published in 1957 by Dr. Seuss. It's a holiday, y'all. No formalities. Let's just do the thing. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging mistletoe and wreath. And they're hanging stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow's Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early and they'd rush to their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and those Whos would start singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this, Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop the whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat with a coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick. Why, with this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said. If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, then he took out some thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed as he climbed on the roof with bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimbley. Then he slunk into the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, the Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my dear sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. The last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Whose houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Whose mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Whos still in bed, all the Whos still a snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. "Pooh, pooh, to the Whos," the Grinch was grinchily humming. "They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They'll just wake up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Whos down in Whoville will cry, boo-hoo." "That's a noise," the Grinch grinned, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry. Very. He started down to Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or another, it came just the same. And the Grinch stood with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food and the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. I don't know about y'all, but that's one of my favorite Christmas stories. I know everyone is probably most familiar with the cartoon version, and I know there's the Jim Carrey version that came out some years ago, Like What You Like, and then the Benedict Cumberbatch starring one that came out, what, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I like that one. I know a lot of people are like, it's not like the old one. Of course it's not. New generation, new way of doing things, whatever. But one of the things I love about Dr. Seuss's stories is they are so timeless. You know, even though he started out wanting to do different types of cartoons and animation and found his niche in children's stories, I'm kind of glad he did, because the stories he created are timeless. You know, I don't know about the rest of y'all. I'm in the United States, in the South, and it's -2. and with the wind chill, it's like -20. And in other parts of the country right now, it's colder and nastier and just not awesome. In many, many places. And, you know, it's the Christmas season. It's my tree. There's a whole snowman on top of it. And it's easy to really think about all of the things you want and don't have. Like, I do Christmas. I'm a Christian, 1. And then 2, you know, I was raised doing Christmas, buying, giving presents. There's nothing wrong with buying and giving presents. Look at me. There's not. Is there something wrong with being so materialistic that you will beat an old lady, you know, half out of her mind to get a TV that's $10 less today than it was yesterday? Yes, that's very wrong. But there's nothing wrong with buying and giving presents. It's a reminder of the ultimate present, because that's what Christmas is all about, is celebrating the birth of Christ, who is the ultimate present. And the message in Dr. Seuss is that it doesn't matter if we have presents. And this is coming from someone who lives in a Western world who probably will always have, you know, what they need, even when things get bad. But I've also done a lot of traveling and been places where people don't always have what they need. And we've helped them and tried to do our best, but you can't solve all of everyone's problems. But the reason for the season doesn't change for anyone. You know, it's one of those great equalizers. You know, it's beautiful to think and remember that the gift of eternal life, the gift of Christ's death on the cross, of his birth, wasn't just for some, it was for all. It's a universal gift. It doesn't matter what you can or can't afford. It doesn't matter what social status you were born into, what country you were born into, what language you speak. It's a gift for everyone. And Christmas is going to come regardless of the stuff. The stuff is a nice bonus, but the stuff isn't Christmas. I hope you enjoyed reading Dr. Seuss. I'll probably put, excuse me, I'll probably post a little bit more over the next week. I'm a December baby, so I've been out celebrating. Y'all know me. I'm the most inconsistent YouTuber that ever was. But now that, you know, I'm kind of settled in for the holidays and not doing so many things, I'll record a few more videos. But I wanted to get that one out there because it's one of my favorite stories, and I've been wanting to read it for the masses. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a safe and happy holiday season with your families. I will see y'all in the next one.